Welcome to London Real. My name is Nick Gabriel, and with me is my co-host Brian Rose. So Brian, I'm not going to ask the usual question, which is, how are you? I've been thinking about something that...
What's that?
During the week. Question I've been wanting to ask you. Last week I wanted to know what's the hardest thing you've ever done.
Wow.
And this week we're going to raise the bar a little bit.
Okay.
And I wanted to know, what's the thing that scares you most?
It scares me the most. Whew, man, that's a strong...
Starting with a bang.
Starting off with a real bang. What's the thing that scares me the most? As in, what frightens me? You mean from an emotional standpoint?
Man, I guess if we had to peel away everything.
Right.
Um,
You know what scares me? I thought about it the other day. Is dying in a really stupid way. You know? Like some guy is backing into a parking space and doesn't see you and just crumples you and you're sitting there bleeding out on the pavement and you're like, really? Is this how it goes down?
Yeah.
And like all those things that I wanted to accomplish in my life in the future just got jacked because some guy wasn't looking in his rearview mirror. Now I don't know why that scares me more than if I took a bullet in combat or something, but for me, that's something I think about sometimes.
That's interesting.
And then, you know, I guess on the back of that I think of, you know, what are all the things that I want to do in my life, and then you're sitting there dying and you haven't done them yet. So, and I think there's a book I loaned you, I think it was called The Happiness Hypothesis.
Yeah, great book.
I think it was Stumbling on Happiness, and the guy says, what if you had 1 minute left to do, what would you do? You know, what, you know, and to talk about
It depends how many girls would be in the room.
Oh, okay. 1 minute's not a lot of time. But, and he's like, well, why don't you live like that every day? And he's like, the reason you don't is because you're a human and you know better than to do all these crazy things in the last minute. You know, whether you would go and eat something you shouldn't or rob a bank or whatever. Why would you rob a bank? But
Something I've had on my mind related to what you just said is, you know, society conditions us to follow the rules, right? You know, follow the rules. If you disobey, you're going to get in trouble. And to a degree, that's true. But if you look at the people who, I think we've spoken about this before, the people who push the boundaries of societal convention as far as possible,
right.
People like rock stars and people are always looking for the edges, seeing how far they can push in any direction. They're the ones who seem to have the most interesting, most entertaining, most rewarding lives.
And we kind of idolize them too.
And we idolize them.
Which is almost contrarian to what a society is.
Yeah.
Right? We should be saying no. But yeah, the rock stars, the guys that, you know, get caught, you know, in doing, you know, cover drugs or they go to jail. We love them.
Yeah.
We still love them, right?
I love them.
I was thinking about the whole concept of government the other day and about the fact that us as a society control what each one does. And it's like the reason that you have to follow the rules is because otherwise all the monkeys will get together and beat on you until you follow the rules, just like in a monkey clan. And it's just like, you know, but then these people created the rules and I have to follow them. It's just a strange paradox, just living in a human society.
What's that? There was that experiment they did that someone related to me. There was a cage that had a whole bunch of monkeys in it, and then they put a banana at the top of the cage or something. Did you tell me about this?
Oh, no, this is new.
They put a banana at the top of the cage, and then what they did is when one monkey climbed up to get the banana, they either gave it an electric shock or they sprayed it with water. They did some like reprimand or some punishment.
Okay.
Or if not, maybe they sprayed all the monkeys. They punished all the monkeys when the one went for the banana. And then what they did was they started removing the monkeys. Eventually they stopped going for the banana, but then they started removing the monkeys. And what they noticed was even when they had a whole bunch of new monkeys, they'd all been conditioned to stop a monkey from going up and grabbing a banana, even if they didn't know why.
Right. Oh, they just wouldn't do it.
They just wouldn't do it anymore because even if that fresh influx of monkeys had never been reprimanded before, they had learned the behavior to stop a monkey from going up and trying to grab the banana.
Wow.
So how many of us have been conditioned that way in society?
To stop going for the banana.
Yeah, or to stop trashing a hotel room, or to stop snorting coke off a strip, or whatever it is that what we're taught is against societal convention.
God, that's crazy if you think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, they say that some people have a self-destruct mechanism, like when they're starting to achieve things that they never thought were possible, they just sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people like that, where it's like, you're right there, dude, just grab the banana, and then they screw it up. Some people say that humans are destined to kind of screw up what they have that's good in order to force themselves to change. I don't know, do you think that's true? It's a deep subconscious thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Have you ever screwed something up?
Yeah,
Do you think subconsciously your brain was doing it in order to make you grow?
I don't know if it was in order to make me grow. I think it was because I knew that the success that I was hoping to achieve would come with newfound responsibilities.
Really?
And perhaps I A, either wasn't ready for that responsibility, or B, didn't want that responsibility. Yeah.
I think that was a subconscious decision.
Yeah. I mean, that's look. Who knows what motivates us from? That would be my best guess as to why I've screwed a few things up in my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was listening, as I do, to a Rogan podcast recently. Hi,
Love
Joe.
Rogan.
Love you, Joe.
Let's get him on the show one day.
Yeah, Joe, you have an invite. By the way, the UFC is coming to Birmingham in 2 weeks, and I'll just throw this out to Joe. We'd love to have you on the show. Take a train down. I think you can take a high-speed train from Birmingham and roll up here to Old Street. But he was saying something recently. He's like, the most interesting people that are friends of his are the ones that are just a little wacky, the ones that are just a little self-destructive, and the ones that just walk the edge. And he's like, those are the people I gravitate to. And I think I do too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This an expression I heard a year back. Success is the differentiator between madness and eccentricity. That's the only thing that differentiates someone who's mad and someone who's eccentric.
Is success.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think Dennis Hopper said it right in that movie Speed with Keanu Reeves. He said, he said, I'm eccentric. He said, poor people are crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, just need to get some cash and then people won't think I'm so crazy, huh?
Exactly. It helps for some crazy reason, right?
Yeah.
So, since we are in London and it's London Real, I was thinking that maybe today we should talk about why we're here. I mean, we're both foreigners, and I was just wondering if you could tell me why you're here, because if you weren't here, we really wouldn't be doing this, would we?
You know, strangely enough, I've had that on my mind for a while. What am I still doing in London? And you know, we always speak about the energy of the place and how amazing it is to be a part of something so multicultural. But the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to understand that the reason I'm here right now is London Real.
Really?
Yeah, I know we have we've got some work ahead of us, and we have it's the thing that excites me the most now.
Wow, that's pretty strong. Yeah, me too, to say the least. You know, I know I think we're finding our voice here. That's what they call it when comedians get on stage and they're like, okay, who am I going to be? You know, who are you? And I think we're figuring this out too. But I like it, and it's good. It's right here in the now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very now this show, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because if you're from somewhere else, it's going to be a shitty show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you talk about the power of now a lot. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Brian, it's not my theory. It's been around in one form or another for a long time. I was first put onto it by a movie called The Peaceful Warrior, which is by an author and spiritual teacher called Dan Millman, who, funny enough, I saw him live. I was at a seminar of his last week, and his whole thing is you have to keep asking yourself the questions, where are you? And the answer is here. And then the second one is, what time is it? And the answer is now. And that got me thinking just how much of my life was spent living in the future. And it's good. I'm starting to become more and more present, and life's getting better and better the more I do that.
Yeah, I'm slowly noticing the good moments I have and just trying to enjoy them while they last. And it's funny, the great moments you have aren't the ones you picture in your mind in the future. They just kind of happen. Maybe you're out in a certain situation with some people and you just have a really, really good vibe, and it's just like, I take a little step back and I'm like, this is awesome. This is what it's about. It's not in the future when I have the X, Y, Z, or you know, when we're shaking hands with the president or whatever we're going to be doing. It's just like, enjoy that.
What's that? I think it's a Buddhist expression which says happiness is like a little bird that comes to sit on your shoulder. You know, you can't make it come, and you can't make it stay either. And
grab it.
Yeah. And then it's just like it's the same as people do with happiness, and we spoke about it last week on the show with love. Can't hold it.
Right.
But you know, I'm writing a book at the moment, and one of the sections is entitled "Love: The Art of Letting Go," and I think happiness is the same thing. It's about learning to let go. You know, in the West, we believe that we can control our destinies, and to a degree, we can control our immediate environment. You can choose where you want to live, or you can choose the clothes you want to wear, or the food you want to eat, but, or the people you want to associate with. But most of it is completely beyond our control. And, man, let's just enjoy the ride. You know what I mean?
Do you think that happiness is beyond your control?
Yeah, well, that's a tough question, but a great question. I think, again, it comes back to a human life is going to have equal amounts of pain and pleasure in it, no matter what. I guess you can just try to enjoy the happy moments for what they are. But whether you can make more of them, I don't know.
And I think we all kind of construct our lives in order to build up the most happiest potential scenario. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work so I have money so I can have food. I'm going to try to hang out with these people because I like them. So I think we try, but maybe it's all fleeting.
Yeah.
For example, meditation and exercise we know can lead to just a kind of a higher general state of happiness, or at least I believe that's true.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back on that. I know for a fact that when I meditate and exercise, my life definitely seems happier. Whether or not it is, I don't know. It seems happier. But something a good friend of mine said to me a long time ago, and Mark, if you're listening, it's a big shout out to you. I know you just moved to the States. Love to hear from you soon. Mark said to me, if you just accept, a lot of people think they have a right to happiness. I have a right to happiness. Why am I not happy? If you just accept life for what it is, life's going to have its shit moments. There's death and pain and suffering and all this other horrible stuff associated with the human experience. And that you don't have a right to be happy, right? Once you accept that, that's when life gets good.
So you get happy?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's in the American Constitution somewhere, I think. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, the pursuit.
The pursuit. Which is strange that it just etches it out that way. But then again, it was a nation created by immigrants, with a whole new outlook on life, so maybe that's why. But that's good, so you shouldn't assume that you have the right to be happy. So then any happiness you get is extra.
Like the concept we spoke about last week, which is that you're living on borrowed time, you don't have a right to anything. Just go with it, man.
I like that. That's really good. You were talking about monkeys earlier. Monkeys fascinate me. I just love watching them. I had some pictures up earlier. I was in Bali 2 years ago, and you can go to these temples, and the monkeys are sacred in the temples, so nobody messes with them. And they basically run the temple. And they'll jump up and grab your hat and run off with it. They'll take ladies' earrings, and you see them, and they're just running around, and it's just crazy to watch them. I think humans like watching monkeys because it's like watching ourselves.
Yeah, it's weird. We're just one step away from that, right?
Just one step, if that.
Yeah.
And,
we share 98 or 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees, if I'm not mistaken.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You just look at their social behavior. Grooming fascinates me. So when the monkeys groom each other, it's always a lower order monkey grooms the higher order monkey. It's always that way. And then they always make sure they groom it. You have to groom in front of the other monkeys so everyone knows the order. It's just crazy hierarchy.
Interesting.
I saw some show the other day where it had, there's like the alpha male, there's also the alpha female, and it goes all the way down beta gamma, and each female and male has its place. And like the bottom rung females, they get harassed by the alpha females. They just get messed with, so they're so stressed that they can never actually get near a male. I think they even probably stop menstruating or something because they're just stressed out all the time, and it keeps them from reproducing, and then hence their genes don't go any further.
Wow.
Because they're not part of the alpha group.
That is fascinating. I mean, social dynamics is fascinating to me. Like going to a nightclub and just watching posturing, and groups, and when a guy goes over to chat to a girl, it's just unbelievable. One of the most entertaining things I can do is just go and watch.
It's monkeys all over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. And if you think about it in a monkey clan, if you're some monkey and you walk into the clan and you want to go talk to the alpha female, you roll up and talk to her, then you're going to get a beatdown from not necessarily the alpha monkey, but probably the beta, gamma, the delta monkey will come over. You'll probably get your face ripped off. Yeah. And so then maybe next time you don't do that.
Something I think about a lot is, on the last show we spoke about, to paraphrase, we were talking about our quest for meaning, right? Or at least I was speaking about my quest for meaning in my life. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Etc. Etc. And then sometimes I think to myself, Nick, maybe you're just a really smart monkey. Do you know what I mean?
No, explain that.
Well, that's what an evolutionist would say, is that we're just highly, highly intelligent, highly evolved primates.
Okay.
you know. And I mean, I've had a few experiences in my life which have convinced me that there's more to life than the monkey flesh.
Okay.
But still, sometimes I see this animalistic nature of mine. I mean, like with whether it be woman or if I'm hungry, I just like, ugh, I want to eat. Or if some guy pisses me off and I get that like just urge to lay a beat down on him, I can see, man, I am chained to this monkey flesh. Joe Rogan speaks of monkey flesh, which I really appreciated. And it's been an interesting thing for me in my life is to see how, you know, I've tried to approach my quest for meaning and also rationalize that with, or reconcile it with the fact that, man, I'm a monkey.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
a
mean?
monkey. And if you look, think, say 50,000 years ago when we were hunter-gatherers walking around in these small clans, then we had to be monkeys and we were beating down the other clans and doing all. And now, fast forward to today, where we have to live in this modern urban society. I mean, you know, 6 million people in London, and we're pretty close together. And now you can't beat the guy up, or you can't rape and pillage the women. You have to do all these orderly things. I don't think our brains have evolved to that yet.
And if you think about it, society and civilization, it's just this very complex network of laws and rules which stops us from beating each other up and killing each other and raping and pillaging. And for me, one of the things I have in my mind is it's not an ideal system, but it's the only system we have. I mean, we speak about how it restricts your freedom. Society and civilization restricts the individual's freedom, but at the same time, it saves him from anarchy.
Yeah.
And I guess I used to be an idealist when I was younger, and to some degree I still am. But I always say when I knew I was an adult was when I had upgraded my software from Idealist 1.0 to Realist 2.0. And
when did that happen?
Probably in the last couple of years, you know.
Okay.
And now I've realized that there's no ideal system of government, or there's no ideal society, or there's no ideal civilization. We just use what we have, which is I find quite interesting.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting to think about all the ways that humans should rule themselves. But we forget that the benefit of being civil has. I mean, I think about this all the time. Have you seen the movie The Road?
I haven't, but a lot of people have been telling me to watch it.
It's hard watch because it's pretty depressing. But it's basically, you know, formed in the future where all society is broken down and it's just a bunch of humans roving around in like thug groups and clans. And it's this father and son story where they're trying to get to some good place where there's water and food and things. And so basically it's gone down to where everyone is looking for themselves, and people are roving the streets and they're becoming cannibals and they're looking for water and food. And he's got a gun, and he, at one point when they get assaulted by these guys, he puts the gun to his son's head, and he'd rather shoot his son than his son to go through what these guys are going to do to him.
Wow.
And they make a rule that they're not going to be cannibals. He's like, we just don't do that. No matter how hungry we get, we're not going to eat the other monkeys.
It's like that film Book of Eli.
Oh, I didn't see it. I didn't see the whole thing. Is it similar?
Similar. Not the best movie in town, but similar kind of themes.
I just think how quickly London could break down to that. I mean, you see what happened in New Orleans. I mean, when New Orleans Hurricane Katrina hit, I think it was 3 days later, you had guys roving the streets in these small gangs looking to steal things and take things. And because there was no police, no law, no order. And as civil as London, and I think if you cut power here and cut everything out supply-wise, it would be 2 or 3 days before you would be toast.
My friend Joel Russell said that we are 3 warm meals away from a revolution. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and you would have nothing. And what am I going to do here? I would store up with water, and then pretty soon you're going to have to go outside, and you're going to get jacked. Unless you find a team that's stronger than them. And it's just, 3 warm meals.
Do you know, I mean, strangely, this is something that's been on my mind a lot because, you know, we're in this middle of this global economic crisis, and I think mankind as a whole, I think our species is on the edge of a shift in consciousness, overall consciousness. And it's my personal belief that when the shift happens, it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be peaceful. I think it's going to be pretty intense. And I think about what would happen. Yeah, say this power cut, which you speak of, happen. What would I do? Let's say tomorrow morning I wake up, I go to flick the light switch and there's no power. I go to turn on the stove to make my breakfast. There's no heat or there's no gas.
And there's no food.
There's no food
There's
and
no police.
no police, nothing. This veneer that's over everything, that's over the monkey flesh, is gone. What would I do? And then I chat to my friends, and the solution that I've come up with at this point is I want to make a rallying point for me and my buddies, because at least then we'd have like some kind of mini tribe, And I speak.
'Cause that's what you need.
That's what you need, right?
Back up in that situation. The
And,
stronger tribe wins.
Exactly.
We got 3 guys, well, we got 30.
Yeah. Or you've got a kitchen knife. I've got a samurai sword. Do you know what I mean? Speaking of which, I have this. This is on a completely unrelated note. I've had this idea. What I want to do in a couple of years' time, when I got some spare cash, is I want to go to Japan and I want to get 10 katanas. Right? Did I tell you about this idea? Yeah.
It's a crazy idea.
I want to get 10 katanas for my 10 best friends, and for each one of them, I want to have a personal engraving.
Okay.
So, my buddy Steve, if you're listening, Steve, your one's going to say the gentleman, because you're a gentle soul. And then for each of my friends, they'll have their own engraving. And I thought that would be kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Didn't you used to have a katana where you had like the whole set?
I went to, I lived in Japan for a month when I was, I think 11 years old or something. It's a homestay program. Lived with a Japanese family. And yeah, they had samurai swords there in every window. And I was fascinated with them. I came home with 4 of them because they had the long one and the short one that the samurais used to wear at the same time. So yeah, I was all into the katana.
That's cool. Sword is, Ibn Pagan speaks about how powerful the sword is as a symbol, as a masculine symbol.
Really?
There was a time where, and in some parts of the world it's still like this. I think in Indonesia, guys still have like a massive knife they carry on their hip. The people are armed. You're sitting in a cafe, everyone's got this sword or this knife on their side, and Filipino martial arts are based towards based on knife and stick fighting.
Yeah,
and
mean stuff.
man, someone told me an incredible story. How the word amok, you've heard the expression to run amok.
Yes.
It comes from the amok warrior class. Amok is spelled AMOK, which is in is it the Philippines or Indonesia? I'm not sure. But either way, apparently what happened was there was U.S. Army bases in the Philippines, and what would transpire is that these amok warriors, when there was unrest and they'd come running at the U.S. soldiers based there, the U.S. soldiers wouldn't be able to put them down with a standard issue firearm, right? Because these guys had blades attached to their feet, two knives, one knife in each hand, and they were impossible to put down. So they were like really causing a lot of trouble. So eventually the U.S. military upgraded their standard issue firearm to I think a Colt 45, if I'm not mistaken, because that was the only thing that had the stopping power to put these dudes down.
Wow. Change bullets as well.
Do you know what I mean? Knife fighting is something that I find very interesting. I think the next martial art I'll look into is knife fighting. I'd rather face a guy with a gun than a guy with a knife, sure.
I think that's true. I think it's hard for you to conceive how a knife can fuck you up so quick. And all of the martial arts go out the window when someone pulls a knife on you. I don't care, if you're a UFC champion.
Yeah.
And those stick fights, man, they do those stick fights and they do like leg shots. They'll be like, bah, 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 boom, right on the thigh, like a low kick. And it's just, man, I want to get in knife fights. No, knives freak me out. London actually has a high incidence of knife crime. I think it's because guns are effectively illegal here as opposed to in the States. But, man, some punk kid with a knife, time to get out of there.
Man, everyone, I get private students or people coming to me because I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor, and they're like, oh, what's the best defense against a knife? And I say to them, man, your legs, turn and run as fast as you can. No matter what anyone tells you, if you go head to head with a guy who's got a knife and you've got nothing, there's a ridiculously high probability that you're going to bleed to death.
Yeah, bleed to death. Not get cut, bleed to death. And probably bleed out, especially if the guy knows what he's doing. Boss Rudin has some really funny barroom brawl videos on, and shout out to Boss, by the way. I was training with him about a year ago, and I was watching some of it.
Awesome dude, right?
I've got video of the whole thing, and I'm watching him, and he's just cracking me up. He's just talking about all his different escapes and stuff. But what he does in that video they're on YouTube is he gets a bar stool out and he's just get distance if the guy pulls a knife and get something between you guys, a chair or something. Ideally run. But yeah, just basically get out of there. Don't be in that situation in the first place.
You know, about a year ago, there was a film being shot at the academy where I trained, the Roger Gracie Academy, and big shout out to Roger Gracie Academy. And this guy had bought in. He's a ninjutsu practitioner, Simon Yeo, and he's got a 20,000 pound Japanese katana, right? And he
that's a money as opposed to weight if you're listening from America.
Yeah, so be a pretty heavy sword. So he let the guys involved in the shoot let us all hold it. There were a couple of rules. You weren't allowed to touch the blade. You weren't allowed to hit anything with it, obviously, and you had to be extremely respectful with this thing. But you know, we were having a conversation a while back about the thing the sword made me realize. Holding the sword made me realize was, you know, my ancestors. At one point, one of them was holding a sword, standing in a field across from some guy who was holding a similar sword and wanted to kill him. And our lives are so goddamn easy, Brian.
Compared to that,
yeah. It's, do you know what I'm saying? Like but again, now as a species, I think the next jump, war will become less prevalent. But then we're accosted with all the difficulties that higher level of awareness and that higher level of civilization will bring.
And they are very different difficulties.
Very different.
I was listening to an interview of John Hamm the other day, who's the head guy on Mad Men. You know, he's Don Draper.
Oh, okay.
And he's talking about the whole concept of the show is, you know, it's post-World War II America. It's thriving, everyone's wealthy and prosperous and confident and arrogant. Yet, there's just, something's wrong. Like, you know, everyone's got all this money, everyone's drinking, everyone's got the car, the perfect wife, except their lives there's something hollow about them, just kind of messed up about them. And I think that's what you're talking about. It's just like this new social challenge that we have to deal with when it comes to this peaceful, prosperous world.
Especially for men, because there's
no conquering it.
There's no rite of passage, you know. There's not. And if you look at tribal societies throughout the world, throughout history, when a boy became a man, it was marked by a rite of passage, whether it was to go and kill another dude, or go on a hunt, or in South Africa where I'm from, it's circumcision. Whatever it was, there was a rite of passage. And you know, the theory is that rite of passage solidified the male archetype within the kid's mind. And that's why you have the society of boy men, you know, that have been men that have been, or boys that have been raised by their mothers and have never become men. And
I'm quoting Fight Club. We're a generation of men raised by women.
Yes.
And then he says, I'm wondering if another woman is really the thing we need.
Exactly right.
We can talk about
Man,
that.
I've seen that in my own life, you know. I wonder how many of my ex-girlfriends were just surrogate mother figures, you know. And it's something that I was thinking about a lot, you know, like the rejection from a woman. It's the rejection of the mother's love, you know. And goddamn, that's painful, dude.
It is painful.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is painful.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty heavy. We can talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
When Fight Club came out, I was in New York. I think it was around the year 2000. And I must have played that movie 50 times. So I just would watch it all the time. And there's one point where he says, I'm a 30-year-old boy. And I was 30 at the time. And I was like, I'm a 30-year-old boy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what the hell?
Great movie. And when he's calling his dad and he's like, Dad, I just finished college, what do I do? And Dad's like, get a job. And he's like, what do I do now?
His annual phone call.
Yeah. And
what does he say? He says, get married.
Get married. Yeah. Missed that one, Dad.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say as far as there's no rite of passage anymore. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're going to conform to this new society where everything's peaceful. I think there's always going to be war. And there's always going to be humans pushing the limits. There's always going to be North Koreas and Irans and all these people that are always pushing it. And the U.S. is always going to be getting involved and then realizing they should have got involved. And I think that's going to continue.
Did you ever watch a movie called Terminator?
As in the
Terminator, yeah. Or Terminator 2, which is the one I'm going to refer to. One of my favorite, that's my favorite movie of all time, by the way.
Terminator or Terminator?
Terminator 2 Judgment Day. There's a scene where they're in the desert, Arnie's with, the Terminator's with John Connor, and such an incredible scene. They're looking they're watching these two little kids who are they're play fighting, and the one's like, "I shot you," and the other one's like, "No, you didn't." And they start like fighting each other, like wrestling. And John, he says to the Terminator, he goes, "We're not going to make it, are we?" And then the Terminator says, "It is in your nature to destroy yourselves." And yeah, man.
Yeah,
is it in our nature to destroy ourselves? I don't know.
We haven't evolved. I don't think our brains have evolved to this new urbanized monkey state. 7 billion people we're going to hit, I think, in the next few months in the world. I'm surprised we haven't done more to destroy ourselves. I mean, okay, there's this nuclear accident that happened in Japan, but I'm surprised that something hasn't gone off in an offensive way that just like renders hundreds of square miles anywhere useless, and we have to just stay away from it. Besides Kiev and Ukraine, where Chernobyl was, I'm just amazed we haven't done some more to screw it up. You know, even nations with nuclear weapons, they seem to kind of keep them at bay. You know, take Pakistan for example. I don't know.
Interesting time to be alive, right?
It is interesting. You know, I always just think, what's going to happen in the future? Is it going to get more interesting to where you're like, man, did that really happen? I mean, September 11th was a horrible day, but at the end of the day, the casualties were limited to 3,000 people. Okay, it was horrible, but it wasn't like, a million people died. Like in the Iraq-Iran wars of the 80s, it's like 1 million people dead. I mean, it's hard to conceive of. Or Rwanda, millions of people died in Rwanda. So, yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, for me, it's coming down more and more to gratitude. Like I am grateful that I'm experiencing this middle class existence free from, war, free from. Well, I mean, there's conflict in everyone's life, but I have the time to think about these issues and chat about them with you and other people. I'm not worried about, man, if I go out my door, am I going to get hit by a sniper? Or, as my buddy Nate says, in the West, we're looking for peace of mind, but in many underdeveloped countries, they're looking for piece of bread. And we're lucky to be able to sit and talk about these issues. Not many people have that privilege.
We are. I always wonder, though, if our lives would be richer if we weren't storming the beaches of Normandy today, like they did 65 years ago, and we would just have, as we talked about before. I mean, what did you say last session? Is the 5 worst moments of your life define
the 5 biggest breakthroughs in your life will come from the 5 worst experiences or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So are we missing those things?
That's part of the experience, right? I mean, I know for the first 25 years of my life, I was, as an idealist, I was trying to look for this perfect life where nothing was going wrong, or get myself to that position where, cool, everything's cool now.
Right.
But that's
another
not
Fight Club thing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
that
that's
one sofa got picked out, and you got that covered.
Yeah, that's not fun, dude. Do you know?
No, it's not fun, and I'm guilty of doing the same thing. I build up a life. You live in a place alone. You've got a certain level of insulation around you, as it happened to Edward Norton's character in Fight Club. And what does he do? He actually wants to go out and get into fights to feel alive in this underground club, when the rest of his life is all sorted in the corporate world.
And we get this. Our lives are so boring that we live vicariously through films.
Yeah.
There's one of my favorite songs by an awesome band called Tool.
Love Tool.
Fantastic band, right?
Gosh.
Vicariously, what an incredible
Prison
track.
Sex is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, I thought you might have said Prison Sex is one of my favorite things, in which case, yeah, it's a cool song. Yeah, great band, huh?
Yeah, I mean, powerful and scary. Yeah.
There's a guy, his name escapes me now. Do you know what the name of the artist who does the cover art for Tools?
I don't know. Their lead singer is quite an interesting guy.
Yeah.
He actually interviewed Hickson Gracie.
He's a brown belt now, if I'm not mistaken. He was a purple belt last time I checked, which was like 2 years ago. So he must be
all the cool guys train jiu-jitsu.
Right. Big shout out to any jiu-jitsu guys watching the show, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's such a beautiful art, and it makes you who you are. At least it made me who I am.
I'd say to any man out there who's struggling with, maybe he's in a cubicle and hating his job, or his wife's nagging the shit out of him, or he's just, how do I put this? I remember when I was about 10 or 12, one of my dad's friends, he was complaining to my dad. He was like, Greg, I never thought it would turn out like this. To this morning I was changing a diaper, and I was wondering about the bills I have to pay and my work tomorrow. And when I was young, I was I was expecting to be driving a convertible down the Pacific Coast Highway with like, a beautiful girl on my arm when I was 30. And my life is just so far from that. Now, I know that's an ideal version for many people, but the point I'm trying to make is, if you're lacking something in your life, I think a reasonably safe way, or as safe as it could be, safe way of pushing that boundary and feeling that masculine fire in the belly is go do a martial art, go do some boxing, do some jiu-jitsu, do some wrestling, and you'll get that back pretty quick.
It's such an important thing. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, I'll be honest, jiu-jitsu, it changed my life, and it's part of who I am today. When I came to London in 2002, I think it was in July 2002, I had my first no-gi jiu-jitsu lesson. It was crazy. And we sparred at the end, and this is with a great friend of mine named Chris Kiston. Shout out to Chris. And it sparred at the end, and he looked at me and said, okay, we're going to spar. He's like, no biting, no eye gouging, and no groin shots. I was just like, what do you think I am? Some kind of animal? And we started sparring. I didn't even know what I was doing. And it changed everything. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, by the way.
I'm working on a project at the moment called, the working title is called Man Camp, and we're going to do it at an isolated venue somewhere, probably like next to a lake, in a bunch of cabins. We're going to go and camp for a week, and it will be a bunch of modules to help men in the modern world. There'll be a module on meditation, a module on philosophy, a whole bunch of different stuff.
Nice.
But we'll end the week with a fight. It'll be kind of like Fight Club. Okay. Probably not an MMA match, but it'll be like a grappling match. Okay. And that will be the ritual that marks the end of the week. And for many of the guys who didn't go through that transition from boy to man, hopefully that will be a surrogate for them.
I like that.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
I think male bonding is highly underrated in general, maybe in the West, or maybe, I don't know, among people I know, but I mean, I don't think, you just can't get the kind of thing that you can get with an all-male crowd, As soon as you throw a female into that group of 10 guys, everyone's behavior changes. But when there's no girls...
Because they all want to bang her, right?
Yeah, it's just something. They all have issues, or now all of a sudden there's a hierarchy.
And there's posturing.
Well,
I guess there's posturing in an all-male crowd anyway.
There is, but I guess it just feels like there's less when the females aren't around. And so sometimes a good guy's night out is better than a hot date. I mean... I had a buddy, and I spent a lot of time in New York, and when I moved from Chicago to New York, and we hung out, we went out 28 days in a row. We went out every night, and it was awesome. I remember I had a date with a girl, because we were throwing around when we were out at night, and I had to go see her on a Sunday night, and we were having a drink beforehand, and I looked at her, and I'm like, you know what, I would rather hang out with you tonight than go on this not a blind date on the first date.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's strange. And I was in a fraternity when I was at university. And we would have nights where 20 guys would hang out at the bar and just drink beer inside the house.
That's so cool.
And we wouldn't even try to go out. And we would just hang out and play stupid drinking dice games, and it was like some of the best nights of my life.
And something that...
What does that say about it?
Something that I was reading a while back, this guy was saying how, especially in the West, we are so conditioned against affection between males. It's, and you put your arm around a guy's shoulder, you're gay.
Yeah.
Right? In India, I mean, male friends walk down the street holding hands.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a common thing. And man, to me that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not really at the point where I think I tried in London, walking down the street holding a buddy's hand. But it reminds me of a couple of years back, I was in a bar with some buddies, and my mate Paul, shout out to you, Paul. We were really happy to be around each other, me and all my friends, and Paul and I would just put our arms around each other's shoulders, right? And we were just standing there chatting for a while, chatting to each other, chatting to our friends, and it was awesome,
Dude, physical contact is the primal way of communicating.
Yeah.
And we just get into this Western society, or very into English. The English aren't very good at contact.
Super repressed,
yeah,
right?
Same as the Japanese. I've got a whole theory about that. As far as you go up in latitudes, how there's more repression. As you go down to the Brazilian type level, where people are like whatever. But it's just so anti-contact. But you think any communication, in the primal sense, that it's probably 50% contact.
it's a strange thing about jiu-jitsu, and for those of you listening who don't know what jiu-jitsu is, it's kind of like wrestling. But a buddy of mine said to me, even though in jiu-jitsu there's a lot of contact, right? There's incredible body contact. It's pretty much the most intimate thing you can do with someone besides having sex, right?
Can you explain it a little more than it's like wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, so the objective of jiu-jitsu is to submit your opponent using a joint lock or a choke or a strangle. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
There's no striking.
No striking involved.
And you typically start on the ground, although you can start standing up.
Yeah, I mean, in most academies you start wrestling from your knees, but ideally you train standing up if there was space and if you had the inclination to do that. But this guy...
the point is that I find important is that you can go pretty much 100% all out until someone taps, and if you know your training partner well, then no one's really going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's you can go full contact, and not many martial arts you can train full contact.
Yeah. So this buddy of mine, Nick, he was saying how he finds often with jiu-jitsu guys, even though they've been training together and they've known each other for years, there's a big boundary because what they're doing is so intimate. They have to keep saying, "This is not gay. This is not gay." They have to keep trying to convince themselves. And I mean, I brought a chick to a jiu-jitsu class once to watch a girl I was dating, and she was like, "Wow, this looks pretty gay," and it does, dude. It looks pretty gay.
That's the initial thing people say. And I mean, you're rolling around sweaty with not many clothes on the ground with another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and early fans of MMA, like the UFC, they see two guys on the ground, they start booing because they don't understand all the little intricacies of guard or mount or side mount. But yeah, and yeah, you're right. As males, we're raised to be so anti-gay that we're just like, oh no, someone's gonna think I'm gay. It's so lame.
And again, it's pretty lame, and I mean, I find myself doing it as well. Like, I'll see something, I'll be, God damn, that is so gay. And dude, I don't give a fuck. I got nothing against gay people, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's entered into like the social lexicon of like, it's a derogatory term, right?
Yeah, and we're all trained as males to be, that's the most anti-male thing. I mean, we're not trained specifically. My dad never sat me down and told me that, but we grow up in the world and we get that perception.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's interesting.
No, but I hug good friends of mine, and
what's that? You never given me a hug, pal.
I gave you a hug once, didn't I? See, I just didn't want you to think I was But I had a good friend of mine who passed away a couple years ago. His name was John Cullen. I'm sure he's rocking it, wherever he is. But he grew up in Brazil for a few years, and so when I would see him after a long time, I would hug him. I'd kiss him on the cheek sometime, and it was just like, it was all good.
I'm gonna make a point when this finishes. I'm gonna go over and give you a massive hug and a kiss.
And on camera?
Not on camera. Don't worry, you're safe.
Because I don't want anyone to think. That was good. We covered that.
Man, complete segue, but have you ever watched a movie called Gattaca?
Yes, underrated film.
Man, I watched The Gain last night. It's one of my.
It's Uma Thurman and
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yeah. They were dating at the time.
I didn't know that.
Afterwards, they were married. Yeah.
Awesome film.
Strong.
It's a great film. What I wanted to bring up was in the end he says they say every atom in your body was once part of a star, and I watched it just before I went to sleep, and I was like, wow, that is incredible, man. That's one of those goosebump moments, like whether or not you believe in something beyond this existence or beyond the physical reality. I think that's pretty much a scientifically proven fact. They've found that, that's a fact. Every atom in your body was once part of a star that exploded and was...
Big Bang Theory kind of thing.
Yeah, and...
It's probably true.
Bro, I mean, how mind-blowing is that?
It's crazy. Don't get me started about that stuff.
I'm sure you were an extremely good-looking star.
Probably. I mean, if I was going to be a star, he would be an extremely good-looking star. But, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that? Is there a soul? Is your soul going somewhere when Nick's body, full of stars, dies?
I mean, I don't know if soul is the... I believe that my consciousness will exist on, be transmuted into some other form or move to another realm or another dimension. It's not something I like to argue with people about because, as my good buddy Robin says, people who, what's the expression? For those who understand, no explanation is necessary, and for those who don't, no explanation is possible. I've had experiences where I've left my body, you know, and look, there's some people might argue that it was just a temporary loss of sanity. Sure, there's an argument for that. From my current perspective, from my current level of experience, I definitely believe there is more to the physical world there's more to the world than the physical.
Okay. I'm slowly starting to become open-minded to the argument that maybe there's something out there, like a collective consciousness that some people talk about, like we're all really, it's kind of like there's a consciousness in the cloud somewhere and we're all part of that. So I'm trying to be open-minded to it, but I can't right now convince myself that when I die, some part of me is going to go evolve. But you're right, it's not really something to argue about.
Yeah. I think next year when we go to the Amazon and take ayahuasca, I think...
So tell me about your quest for the ayahuasca and your lobbying campaign to get me to join you.
So for those of you who don't know, Brian and I, what we're going to do is... this is the throwing your hat over the fence moment, right? I'm trying to convince him to come out to South America next year, December next year, either to Peru or Brazil or wherever is the best option, and to take part in an ayahuasca drinking ceremony or ayahuasca drinking ritual. Yeah.
Can you briefly describe what ayahuasca is, or I can describe it?
Yeah, go for it, Brian.
Well, it's something that's practiced in Peru and some parts of Brazil, and there's evidence it's been used for I think 3,000 years. They found ceramics that they used to heat and cook the ayahuasca, but it basically takes it's a vine and another leafy plant. I think there's 100,000 species of plants, and it's just these two particular plants that they combine together in like a heating process. And these shamans, which are these experienced spiritual leaders, give you this ayahuasca in like a ritual, and it's a massive psychedelic. And actually, the specifics of it are, I think it's called DMT, which is something that's apparently naturally produced.
Dimethyltryptamine.
Okay, and it's a psychedelic. And apparently, the reason you have to combine these two vines is because your stomach would prohibit the DMT from being digested with only one vine. So it combines another, and it's an anti-something inhibitor.
Monoamine oxidase inhibitor,
Okay, yeah,
MAO inhibitor, yeah.
And that allows you to orally take this product, and it sounds like a heavy-duty psychedelic experience.
I mean, I've never done it, but some of my buddies who've done it.
Your buddies that did it?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it in London as well. But I got a buddy who's been to the rainforest, and he was telling me about some of the stuff, and man, it's just incredible. I heard somewhere that apparently your body produces DMT, but the highest concentrations of it are released at birth and at death. And what it does is it's helping you transition from one world to the next. Because think about it, bro. Let's say, at least in my theory, your soul, when you're born, you come to play this game called the human experience, or as Bill Hicks would say, you come to take this ride. And man, it's going from one existence to something completely foreign. I mean, imagine if you or I were shoved through a portal, our consciousness was shoved through a portal into another dimension where you exist as, an amoeba or a cube, an all-knowing cube, or whatever it is, this incredibly foreign experience. I mean, you just lose your mind. You just literally go mad. So, body releases DMT at these two moments when the transition is happening. And what shamans do and what people who take ayahuasca do, they're connecting with other dimensions through the DMT. And for any of you who want to know a little bit more about it, I suggest you go on a site called Erowid, which is spelled EROWID. Just type it into Google, it'll come up. And Erowid's a database where people speak about their drug experiences. Any drug, could be cocaine, could be DMT, ayahuasca, cannabis, whatever. And they write about their experiences. And the cool thing is, it's a pretty balanced view. They write about their good experiences, and you can also read reports of really bad experiences, trips gone wrong. But man, I can sit there and read these experiences for hours, because some of the stuff these people are relating, it's just so goddamn out there.
I mean, I've heard, one guy that was on Rogan's show came back and changed his name. He's like, I'm not that guy anymore.
Wow.
That name no longer applies.
Wow.
And he is just, he described the whole experience, and he's just a different person.
Wow.
So,
as we will be when we finished our trip, right?
that stuff really scares me. You know?
It terrifies me. I was supposed to do it a couple of years ago, and I chickened out.
Really?
I chickened out. I was like, I'd planned to go to the Amazon and do it, and in the end, I went and visited some chick in Australia, which man, I'm actually glad I didn't do it because I don't.
It was the wrong time, maybe.
It was the wrong time, bro. I don't think I was ready for it. I still don't think I'm ready for it. I'm actually planning to use the next year to meditate, cleanse my body, start facing fears on a smaller scale, and then hopefully I'll be ready for it at the end of 2012.
They say you should work up to it. You know, they say that there is something like that where you should, try different mild psychotics and then go into the big one. But yeah, it's scary. I think when people hear of drugs, they think it's happy time, whether it's alcohol or ecstasy or marijuana. But I think when it comes to this thing, it's like you're in the deep end, and you get to confront all of your fears and your insecurities head on, and there's no security blankets, and you're in the jungle, and mommy's not here.
Yeah. So something my buddy Tim, who's done this a lot of times in the Amazon, he says, the first night he was in the jungle, he was lying in this hammock or whatever it was he was sleeping in, and you hear these sounds coming from birds and animals and insects that are so foreign to you. Like she said, some of them would sound like weird electronic devices. Meanwhile, it was some huge dragonfly or whatever buzzing past him, and it was like, like, and he'd be like, God damn, I am so far out of my comfort zone. And then you compound that with taking this entheogen, which is gonna literally change your sensory perception beyond anything you've ever experienced. It must be tough, bro.
Yeah, and everyone's speaking Spanish, and and you do it in a group setting. And it causes you to purge everything in you when you take it. And that's
what about it scares you?
Because I've heard that what it makes. It's funny. Someone says it's all about apathy, not about apathy. Sorry, about empathy. Because you get to see how you've been treating other people from their point of view.
Brian, you know what? I'm so glad you said that because that's the exact thing that scares me.
Oh, really? Maybe you should.
Yeah.
It's like you get to see how you've been treating other people, and you get to experience it, and you
dude,
get
I
to
know.
go inside your head.
You know what I'm saying? Because for me, that's what I think as a human being, the thing that the most pain I can cause myself is to reminisce about the harm I've caused other people, and one of the ways I'm starting to make myself feel better about that is realizing that a lot of souls come here because they want pain. They want that pain to grow. I mean, a girl said to me once, that before any of the stuff takes place, everyone agrees to which role they're going to play. So souls.
All's fair in love and war. Is that
Well, no, not at all. Like, my mom and dad and I, on a karmic level, we're all connected. We probably have known each other for lifetimes, and we all agree what role we're going to play when we come here and play this human experience. Like, my mom's going to be my mom, my dad's going to be my dad, I'm going to be the son. I've got to teach them certain things, they've got to teach me certain things. And, the people I've hurt and the people who've hurt me, these are the roles we have to play, and we all agree to that. Otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
You're trying not to judge it. You're just saying it is.
And it's incredibly difficult, Brian. I told you last week how more and more the Bible's starting to make sense to me, even though I don't consider myself a Christian. But something that keeps playing through my mind is one of I think it was Jesus' statements, which is, "Judge not, lest you be judged." And goddamn, how many judgments do we make each day?
You have to try to catch yourself not to judge, because we're doing it unconsciously. Even when you're walking down the street, you make all these visual assumptions about people and judgments. It's very hard.
Stereotypes are interesting because they allow us to make our way through the world. If we didn't have, I think the term is heuristics, which are mental shortcuts. If we didn't have those heuristics, this experience would be too much for us. Like, if I didn't know when I walk down the street and I see a guy with a shaved head and a big scar down his face, like 6'3", looking pretty mean, if I didn't make that judgment, shit, this guy looks kind of dangerous. Even though he could be a total pussycat, he could be the coolest dude in the world, he could be on his way to to an old age home to like chat to little old ladies about their lives, you know.
Teach yoga.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know that, but
Right.
the problem is these stereotypes and these heuristics, even though they serve us, they also make us miss out on a lot. Do you know? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this happens sometimes when you get to know someone, or you get a first impression, and then later you're like, wait a second, he's not like that at all. And you're like, wow, I'm so glad I got to know. Usually it's positive. I got to know that about him, but I would have never assumed it about him.
Because your judgment comes between you and reality.
I find it as people with English as a second language. I think everyone. Maybe you're telling your thoughts on this, but you honestly kind of discount them and you treat them a little stupider than they are when they're in fact highly intelligent people
who's speaking it 2 languages which you don't do yourself.
You can't even do that. To save your life, and they're trying to. They can somewhat articulate themselves.
I've done that so many times. I'm glad you pointed that out.
And then you find out later, and they're like, and they feel it. They're like, I'm not stupid, you know. And so it's nice to see that. To try not to judge, but it's good that you're actually. It's conscious and it's noting that you are judging. It's good you're seeing that.
It's the observing ego, right? It's like just being aware of the fact that you're thinking and being aware of your thoughts and disassociating yourself from them. That is probably the biggest shift in my life in the last 4 or 5 years. And big shout out to Eben Pagan. If you ever listen to this, I really want to meet you one day. It's on my list of goals is to meet you and interact with you. Thank you for that.
Nice, we'll get him on the show as a guest. Something my dad said recently, he's called it projecting your ego and trying not to do that. And you know, we all project our ego in a way because we're always like, no, I know how to do it. Let me tell you what you should be doing. Like, no, you're doing it wrong. You're like, even when you think about people, they're not living their life right. They should be doing this. You gotta catch yourself. Like, well, that's just you projecting your ego on them. Yeah. And I'm constantly doing it. No, give me that. You're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Or if you only would exercise 3 times a week and eat vegetables, then you wouldn't be fat. You know, and I'm just like, because I know what to do. And
maybe it's a lesson they have to learn, right?
Yeah, I think you just have to catch yourself, and because I think projecting your ego is a lot about judging. And I think you just catch yourself and be like, no, let's just let them live the way they're going to live. Maybe you can learn something from them. But it's tough. And observing ego is tough.
What do you So I asked you at the beginning of the show, what is the thing you fear the most?
Ayahuasca in the jungle.
That's why we got to do it, right?
Well, we talked about last time about getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah. That's it. And lying on a bed of nails.
So I wanted to ask you, what are you learning at the moment? What are the lessons you feel you're learning at the moment?
Lessons I'm learning. Learning to live in the moment is big. Learning to be appreciative of what people I have around me, and you know how lucky you are. Sometimes you don't realize it. You know, you're thinking, oh, someday I'll be hanging out with this person, this person. It's like, wait a second, you're actually hanging out with very cool people, and you got lots of great things. So I'm just analyzing my life. Also, I always check myself from a material standpoint. I'm like, do you really need that? You know, do you really need, you know, the $10 million? Do you really need the Ferrari? You know, no, you don't. Because it's more about what you're doing with your life.
You know, something I got from
Not
you.
what you have in your life.
Something I got from you that I really want to thank you for is you have this rule. Every time something comes into your house, something has to go out. And it's closely related. It's closely related to another thing that I do is every 6 months I just do a massive clear out. And I try to get rid of as much stuff as I can. Back to Fight Club. Sooner or later, the things you own start to own you, right?
I believe that's true. Yeah. You know, I don't own a car. I don't own a house, and I don't want these responsibilities in my life. I mean, that's a strange thing, but I do think the things end up owning you. And there was some people in the States recently. There was something called 100 Things, and you had to restrict yourself to only owning 100 things, and it's a lot harder.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and people were like, I got a pot or a pen. Choose one.
Wow.
You know? And some women were like, shoes or one thing. Because they were like, I can't have my 20 pairs of shoes being 20 things. But people were doing it. And it's just amazing how your life can be great, I think, if you simplify it.
Yeah, I might try that, you know, and that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, read up on it and then see where that takes you. You know,
when you said that, I was like, man, I don't know 100 things, and then like a random little checklist. Yep, I do.
You think about a toothbrush, everything. But you know, I would love to continue this for another hour, but we're actually rounding up our hour.
Yeah.
So I guess unfortunately we're gonna have to call it for this week.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I can't wait for next week.
Me too.
This is just.
Let's keep doing this till the energy is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Long may it last.
It's gonna be a long time. But yeah, I'm super pumped, and yeah, I'll see you next Friday.
Cool.
All right.
Later, Brian.
Peace.